Hey, what is up guys, Speed here, and today I want to look at the fantastic LIFESTEALER performance that Matamaman has recently had on LIFESTEALER. Now, he's played quite a few games on this hero, and it seems to show a lot of prowess. I'm going to be talking about how Secret uses this hero properly, how Matamaman plays it in sort of a different way, in a way that I've actually thought has been good for a bit now, but definitely underplayed. And yeah, I think a lot of the things that he does, a lot of people wouldn't think to do or consider doing, and therefore we're going to discuss it. So smash that like button if you're ready for another broken video where we discuss Dota 2, and yeah, let's hop right into it. And quickly before we get into the video guys, I just want to let you know that I am creating a lot more content. I recently just made a video as well on the main GameLeap website that you can sign up to down below, where I talked about how to stomp on Lycan. I feel like this hero is very underrated right now. I tweeted about it. I think this hero is insanely good and underpicked as a mid laner specifically. And I talked about that. I also am doing full-length coaching sessions that you can get. So if you want more content and you're not happy with the length of these YouTube videos, you want even more, GameLeap is the place to go. It's going to teach you everything you need to know. That rhymed. Now you have to sub. And I hope to see you guys there. Click the link down below. And yeah, let's get into the video. So getting into the laning stage, we're actually going to start a little bit further in here. Just, throughout the entire lane, all he was really doing is playing the lane very static, pulling a lot of creep aggro, and hitting Seb anytime he walked up to the creeps. Now you can see that LIFESTEALER struggles against Omni Knight early on. That's the key here though. LIFESTEALER is actually misunderstood by a lot of players, and that's kind of how I want to start this conversation. A lot of people view LIFESTEALER as this pure lane dominator, and this applies to both sides of, the spectrum. A lot of people, they'll play against LIFESTEALER, and they'll be very, very passive early on because they assume, oh, this hero steals, well, literally steals my life, and therefore if I trade with him, it will almost always be negative. But this is actually far from the truth. Early on, LIFESTEALER actually trades very poorly. His lifesteal is very negligible and underwhelming, and therefore you can see that what Matamaman buys is very, very small items. He leads with the Bracer to help us sustain, and a lot of people would say, Bracer? You have natural built-in regen, why? Well, it's what I talked about. Your hero does not do that well early on. Seb understands this as well, and really what Matamaman does good in this lane is not overextending too hard. He doesn't overtrade, and he CS's incredibly well. Really, the reasons why he was able to sustain the lane is his god tier CS and the fact that he didn't overextend, as well as buying a Bracer to help out. If he didn't do all these things, and he didn't get 11 denies, 11! In 5 minutes and 23 CS when he was getting hard pressured by Seb, something you won't experience in your typical pub, he wouldn't win the lane. And that's really the biggest thing to understand as LIFESTEALER. You aren't that strong earlier on, so play for CS, do not overextend, only hit people when they do what Seb did. You see how Matamaman manned up when Seb walked into the creep wave? That is the only time you want to man up until you have a lot more item. And upcoming here is the major power spike for LIFESTEALER. Level 6, but most importantly, phase boots. Phase boots are huge. Your hero has so much attack speed with Feast. A lot of people forget this, but Feast gives attack speed. It currently gives 60 at max. What he has at the moment is 45. And now with the help of the phase boots, he can actually trade. Usually LIFESTEALER, with 6 armor, which isn't terrible, struggles to man up to a lot of people early on, right? But once you get this phase boots where you get 18 damage and 4 armor, you can actually start to man up. You really start to get to the point where you can man up. You can see even here with the open wounds, he can trade extremely well against Seb. Now it is important to know that he specifically knew Seb did not have enough mana for Heavenly Grace. This entire laning stage, Matamaman refrained from using his E on Seb at any times, because he knew that Seb at any point in the lane, if he has the mana for it, could Heavenly Grace away the open wounds and take a very favorable trade. Now Matamaman, being the god that he is, clicks on Seb, which a lot of people just forget to do, checks his mana, sees that Seb does not have mana to purge the open wounds, and because of it, he's able to actually pick up a kill. And this is huge. A lot of people would say, Speed, he just right-clicked him to death and casted open wounds. I mean, I did talk about the mana thing, but the most important part is that he didn't die up until this point. And a lot of people would be like, what? Are you kidding me? Speed, are you serious? He didn't die, that's it? That's all you have to do? Yes, but playing against a hero like Omni Knight in a 1v1 matchup against one of the best offlane players in the world, that is a real task. To have good CS and not die. That is incredible. Think about that, good CS and not die. Insanely difficult. Because if he doesn't get phase boots this early into the lane, he can't do that, right? That play doesn't work out like that. And yeah, now the game is completely changed. Because Matamaman has completely outplayed Seb, Seb feels pressured to go to the bottom lane, and because of that, Seb dies. And that's where a lot of players would say, Oh, but it's draft, Nisha, you know, his OD just completely counters them. If Seb doesn't get dumpstered there by the Matama Man, kind of just throughout the entire lane, even killing him, Seb wouldn't feel pressured to make that rotation. Seb would just keep farming top. He would become huge, much harder to deal with. And that's just not what happened. Therefore, the game looks very different. Also, something you'll see often when you're playing LIFESTEALER if you end up winning your lane is that people just leave, especially leave you alone. And what you want to do is drag the creep wave. Whether or not you're bottom or top, you know, in your safe lane or they're off lane, you want to drag the creep wave to camps. Your hero doesn't jungle too fast. It's moderately slow. You kind of just farm slow in general. Not completely, but you really want to just use the fact that you have free farm, right? This is the reason why LIFESTEALER can be a top net worth hero. It's because he gets left alone if you have a good start. And make sure you use this tactic to continue to amplify that. And really, the main tip I can give you guys about LIFESTEALER is to buy a stick if it's a good stick lane. Other than that, buy an armlet, buy a blightstone, and stay in your lane. Also, broom handle is insane. This item is so good on LIFESTEALER. It is so good. 3 armor, 12 damage is incredible. That's why you buy phase boots largely for those, you know, those stats. And then 50 attack range allows you to get kited so much less. It is so good. And really, you just want to stay in your lane. That is why understanding the spikes in the laning stage that I described earlier, which is really your level 5 with phase boots / level 6, and so on, is the most important part. Because if you leverage those advantages, what you're able to do is sit in the lane, pressure that lane, take the tower like Matama Man does here, and AFK farm. That is all you do, until the enemy team dives one of your towers, which you'll see upcoming here in a second. So the only fight you want to take in the early game is when the enemy team dives your towers. Remember guys, if you TP to a fight early into the game as most safe laners, and they aren't under your tower, you'll get kited, likely not get a kill, or maybe even die. And so what you want to do is only TP for scenarios like this. He's also pretty strong right now, he has his armlet. But if you don't have your armlet or your phase boots and you're having a really tough game, just stay in your lane as LIFESTEALER. You do not want to make a rotation, but because he's having a good start, he can TP mid, gets a kill in the topson, finds no tail as well, and gets the double. And now you can see here, what I really like from Matama Man is he's not afraid to take dangerous farm. LIFESTEALER is very similar to Jug in a lot of ways, where you can play aggressive parts in the map, right? You can play very, very, very aggressive. And it's important to do that in your games as well. You can see right here, instantly ganking, right? Playing a ganking sort of LIFESTEALER. And a lot of people would never see LIFESTEALER like this. They don't see this hero as a playmaker. They see LIFESTEALER as a hero that's going to sit in his lane, hit creeps for a long period of time. But with this armlet build, you can make plays. You can get active, especially if you have a lane like Matama Man did. You know, with this level 12, he has maxed out rage, right? So 6 seconds of spell immunity. His level 30 attack speed talent, which I also recommend you guys take. The health is just meh, right? I would rather have less health and lifesteal more for that lower amount of health. The only thing is you could technically get bursted by a hero like Tiny, but you know, as long as you position around that, you'll be okay. So the next thing you really want to do is infest initiators, and while this is a tip a lot of people know, I think most people kind of just forget to do it in game. It's a very easy thing to forget, but you can see when this fight breaks out, he can just hop inside of his Earth Spirit, who has a Meteor Hammer. Gotta love YapzOr, guys, right? But he can hop inside of his Earth Spirit, who can actually get him into the fight. This prevents you from getting kited, and heroes like Earth Spirit and Batrider and Mars are very important to just hop inside of. Even being able to use it to save teammates is a big deal, so just make sure you do this in fights. Whether or not this fight breaks out, the point still stands. He can just stay inside of YapzOr and try to get the kill. Now I just want to show you guys a quick clip of him shredding, and this is really how insane this build gets. If you get off to a good start, I mean, to be fair, 17 minutes in with the Deso Armlet is very, very difficult to get. Not only that, he also bought what seems to be, to me, a casual Helm of the Iron Will, which is interesting. I think it makes a lot of sense against a hero like Troll. His main threat is really just a Troll plus tag team, so definitely pretty logical here. And with this Deso Armlet, you just shred. You can see Seb's gonna get gun on here, right? Drops the open wounds, and Seb just dies. Like, he just dies. His spells were on cooldown, and like there's really no analysis to do that. Seb kind of just overextended there, to be honest. Probably wanted Matama Man to overextend, which is sort of what happens here. He gets gone on, but Zai, being the god player that he is, leaves the infest option for him and is able to get out, which is really your main option. So whenever you're playing LIFESTEALER, you want to lead in the fight with a rage, right? Because that's what you have to do. You want to kill one person with rage, and then you want to infest somebody. This is usually the plan of action for LIFESTEALER. Open wounds, rage, kill somebody, then infest. Right, and the reason for this is when you don't have rage, your hero is very kiteable. Very, very, very kiteable. It's obscenely easy to kite your hero, so just keep that in mind. That's the pattern. open wounds, rage, or sometimes rage open wounds if the enemy team has hexes or a lot of burst damage, or silences any sort of disable that threatens you. You lead in, then you want to infest the kite out, right? You can also keep one of your teammates alive. It's very, very useful as you give them movement speed and HP. And Psycho, I take it back, guys. It was not a casual Helm of the Iron Will. It actually built in a nullifier, which makes a ton of sense this game. It counters Omni Knight. If he GAs, you nullify, and nullifier currently purges, and therefore it purges the Guardian Angel, which is Omni Knight's ulti, which, prevents physical damage. And so in this fight here, you could just see how much damage this nullifier also gives. It literally is 225 plus damage, and that's not with the lats or anything like that. Nullifier gives 80 damage. This item is really good on Lifestealer. The only thing that his build lacks is HP, so there is this small threat against certain magical damage lineups that you can literally get one shot. 1600 health is very, very underwhelming for this point in the game as a frontliner. But nonetheless, because the enemy team doesn't really have that this game, or, the Tiny is pretty underfarmed, he has a backup Astral, he can get saved, he can get away with this build, right? It makes sense, and therefore he can lead in here. Mid one ends up getting silenced by Yapsor, ends up getting silenced by the Bloodrite as well. Seb is unable to save him, and then the Nullifier comes out, and he literally 5 shots an Omni Knight. And Omni Knight got hit 5 times. How often do you see that? Not too often, but with this Imclaw and the help of these items, he is shredding. Also, you can siege really well with this build. An issue I always had with the Radiance Lifestealer is that for the majority of the game, you just can't really siege. It doesn't work. You're not tanky, and you don't have much attack speed or even attack damage with Radiance. But with this build, it's no problem at all, and you can actually transition fights into towers and buildings, which is very, very useful. And now, once you get this farmed on Lifestealer, your game plan is to hit the first person you see. Are there opportunities where you need to, pick between targets? Absolutely. But generally because you don't want to get kited, and yes, that is literally the reason, because you do not want to get kited and you don't want to overextend and die without rage, what you want to do is hit the first person you see. While that might sound like a quote-unquote basic tip, it's not. A lot of people will say, I'm playing Lifestealer, I need to kill the Zeus, and they'll chase the backline, their rage will end, and they will die. And so more often than not, you just kind of want to protect your team. Right here, he just goes on top and secures that kill, walks over to No-Tail, kills him. Seb is next up on the list, as mid one got put into the air, and the fight just about ends there. Now, unfortunately, the GA comes out, but Saksa did not get clipped by it, so he 4 shots the Grimstroke. The Nullifier comes out for the Omni Knight. That's an ultra kill. Is it going to be a Rampage? It is. We all know it is. And he crits him for 409 with the M-Claw. But yeah, this Lifestealer build is absolutely insane. The damage you deal is bonkers, and it's particularly good against these team comps where they pick heroes that just don't threaten you earlier on. So what OG's opener this game was a Grimstroke and a Tiny. Now these heroes aren't necessarily bad against Matama Man, but Secret can draft around it. They pick an Enchantress, which is a very good laner with a Matama Man, and if that doesn't work out, they can always swap up the lanes like they did this game, and yeah, they secure Matama Man a very good start. And lastly, let's actually take a look at this final fight. It's a very important one to look at, as things aren't always sunshine and roses. He goes on in mid one here, right? As I talked about, you just hit the first person you see, you want to chunk him down, and he pops his rage. The thing is, this is naturally a counter matchup. OG picked Troll and the Lifestealer, and for good reason. Troll just punches him, and punches you, and roots you through rage, and you can't really kill the Troll properly. But in this case, the counter matchup actually comes into play. He has to run away. So what do? You infest out. Simple, but effective, right? Anytime your rage is ending and you feel like you can even be slightly threatened, or you're countered by a hero like PA or Terrorblade or Troll, it's very important to reset the fight and reset your rage cooldown with the infest. Also, you can see Puppy is getting rolled on here, but this is an Enchantress with 2,600 health points. Heard that right? 2,600. Now he does have a Vanguard, shreds a wand as well, which is the Puppy classic on this hero. He literally just walks into the fights and tries to bait out damage. But nonetheless, Matama Man, who is the focus of this video, is going to be able to reset for the rage cooldown, and with his really high armor build, takes basically negative damage. No joke, with the tower and mech buff here, as well as the armlet nullifier and AC, he had 55 armor. 55. And that's going to be about the end of this game, as OG will call it. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed this tournament as much as I did. It was really a pleasure to watch Secret just stomp everybody. Frankly, they looked like they were on another level every single game. And the coolest part is they just pick different heroes. all the time. Sometimes you see a Lifestealer, sometimes you see an OD, occasionally you'll get a Lone Druid, a Morphling, an Ember, a Void Spirit, a Chen, an Enchantress. You just never know with the Secret, and yeah, they're really fun to watch right now. So is OG as well, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace. Before you leave, just want to say a quick message. If you're trying to get better at Dota or you just enjoyed that video, I know this is pretty general, and you're going to hear this quite a bit from me, but I recommend you sign up to GameEAP.com. Why? Because I put a lot of effort into the content over there, and generally the effort I do there is different from the content you're going to see here on YouTube. It is different. In fact, I usually go a lot more in depth on topics or into niche topics that help you get to the next level even faster, because on YouTube, I often have to keep it more mainstream, and that's even why I'm putting it at the end of this YouTube video. That's why this is at the end, because a lot of people just watch 5 minutes, they skip through just for like the dopamine spike. But if you are interested in actually getting better at Dota, I recommend you go to the description down below, get your discount right now by clicking the link, sign up, use the discount code that you're gonna see there, and I hope to see you there right now, so click it, and yeah, thanks for watching.